The living room in a working-class household serves many purposes of day-to-day living. I would argue from my experience that the primary function to be the watching of the telly. The big box telly lasted for many years until we received a second-hand flat screen which took pride of place. The privilege of Sky Plus was an addition to our working-class household, which also acted as a source of pride. Having Sky Plus in our neighbourhood was a symbol of status. You were doing well if you had Sky Plus. It was a popular item amongst my friends, whose parents were more sceptical of the 999 channels and the sins of too much television. Alongside watching the telly, eating was a common practice within the living room. To navigate the absence of a dining room, food is commonly eaten from laps whilst watching the telly. Things often coincide. Multitasking is a symptom of the conditions of working class living. A cushion could be used to buffer the heat from hot plates of nuggets, chips and peas upon destructible laps. Other functions of a working class living room include the exhibition of objects in reference to personal expression. For example, my mum and dad collected statues of witches, dragons, trolls and other fantasy-related novelty items. These sat within an enormous dark wooden cabinet with enamelled glass window doors for display. My dad also held an assortment of Liverpool FC and Formula One memorabilia that adorned our textured wallpapered walls. This may differ from family to family, of course. Other working class households may hold religious idols and paintings, as did my Catholic immigrant great-grandparents, or cultural artefacts of a country in a culture elsewhere, as my Vietnamese and Filipino friends' families did. All serve as reminders of who we are, what we identify with, our own personal museums and archives. A final few notes on the working class living room. This space, as I know it, serves as the arena for familial drama, contest, sadness, and struggle. At times this room was a space to sit in anxious silence as my mum argued and pleaded for empathy and understanding from debt collection calls, and at other times spoke to neighbours through a big open window, peeking through the curtains at others as the same dramas unfolded across the street. It is a room that unites the familial unit, whatever shape this may take. A community space filled with the types of aunties and uncles who were regular features but no blood relation, grandparents and cousins for birthday teas and communions. Neighbours were no exception. The working class living room, as I know it, is a place of community. It does not shy from the problems of its circumstances. Issues of abuse, self-destructive or inflicted upon others take place in these spaces too. My dad's drinking took place here, as did the arguments and the conflict that came of it. But a reliance and a dependence upon one another to simply make it day to day makes this space, the living room, as opposed to any space to lounge. Though I would also argue that the living room in a working class household is also a space of rest from labour, underpaid and overworked, of rest from conflict, of constantly struggling to get by, the anxious checks my mum would write in the supermarket when we were kids, knowing that they would bounce until she could afford the shopping she hoped would last the month, of rest from snobbery and judgment, a space that exists in a working class bubble, safe from the eyes of people of higher class, without empathy and full of preconceptions. It is a space to recover, for the next day spent repeating the same labour all over again.